Hey everybody, I recently made a new delicious recipe and I wanted to share it with all of you. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make roasted Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes. Okay, so I already have my sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts chopped up. This recipe called for 1 pound of Brussels sprouts, which I cut the hard parts off the bottom and chopped them in half. And then it called for 1 sweet potato, but I figure while I'm cooking, I might as well cook a big batch. So I threw two sweet potatoes in there. I tried to cut them up to about the same size, did the best I could, that way they cook evenly. So the recipe called for 3 tablespoons of olive oil. I did a little bit more, probably a little closer to 4 tablespoons, just because I added that extra sweet potato, and last time I felt like I needed just a little bit more oil on there. So I like to mix up the oil first because I find that if I get the oil on the sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts kind of coated on there, then the spices stick better. So again, 3 tablespoons of olive oil, but I used a little extra because I threw in an extra sweet potato. So I already have my oven preheating to 450 degrees. And that's something that I'm learning about roasting, is that usually want your oven pretty hot, which is cool. I'm learning that. So oven hot, preheating to 450 degrees. Now I've got the olive oil on there. So the recipe called for a teaspoon of cumin, but when I made this before, I thought it was a little too much. So I did a half a teaspoon this time. So I'm gonna toss that in there. It called for a teaspoon of salt, but I like a little extra salt. I felt like it needed a little bit more last time, so I did a healthy, we'll just call it a healthy teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon of black pepper, didn't change that. The recipe did not call for garlic, but I always think a little bit of garlic powder in there is good, so I put a half a teaspoon of garlic powder in there. And then I'm using, instead of crushed cayenne pepper, I'm using these red pepper flakes because that's what I have. The recipe also called for paprika, but I didn't have any first time I made this, and I made it without, and I thought it tasted great. So it's a pretty easy recipe, which I always love easy. You just cut stuff up, throw the olive oil and spices on there, mix it up, and toss it in the oven. So I love easy. I also love it because look how colorful that is. And oftentimes the vegetables that are colorful have more nutrients in them. And sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts are not something I eat very often. So I'm trying to, whoops, made a mess there. I'm trying to try new things and, expand the types of foods that I'm eating, healthy foods, so that I get all the nutrients that I need. And I'm trying to get better at cooking in general, and also cooking veggies, sweet potatoes, healthy things, so that my husband and I can learn to enjoy these foods. But if they're not cooked well, they're often not very good. So I'm trying to try new recipes, and I'm hoping that by perfecting this recipe, I'm hoping to perfect it, that Josh will like these too. So I'm just going to mix these up, and then we are going to toss them on our cookie sheet. So I have my Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes on my cookie sheet here, and it's pretty full, but I tried to make sure that no veggies were like stacked on each other, because I think when you're roasting, you want to make sure that things are flat so that all of the pieces of the vegetables get the heat, so they all get a little bit crunchy. That's that super awesome effect that you get from roasting things. So you don't want things stacked, because otherwise they can get mushy. And I like them a little bit crunchy, and I think that's the power of roasting, is you get that little bit of crunch. So I'm gonna put these in the oven for 25 minutes. The recipe called for 20, but because I'm adding that extra sweet potato, and because I felt like leaving them in a little bit longer last time gave them a little bit more of a crunch, I'm gonna throw these in the oven for 25 minutes, again, 450 degrees, and I'll show you how they turn out. So I have now roasted my Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes, and I put them in for 25 minutes. I still don't think they looked super crispy though, so I just turned off the oven and left them in the oven for like another 10 minutes, and I think they look nice and beautiful and crispy, as you can see. I love these little like flakes that come off the Brussels sprouts. Those are always nice and crunchy. So here are my roasted Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes. I will put the original recipe below, and if you want to try it, I'd love to hear how it turns out for you. I'm going to feed these to Josh, and I hope he likes them. He doesn't traditionally like sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts, but I'm hoping that with this simple but tasty recipe with some good spices and some good oil on them, and with them having a really good texture, he'll learn to appreciate Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes as much as I do. One other note, one thing that I love about recipes like this where you can prep it and toss it in the oven is that while these were cooking, I cleaned up a little bit. I got a Christmas present ready to send to a friend, and I worked on a little project for my dad. So that's what I love about these simple recipes is you can put them in the oven and they basically take care of themselves from there. So try it out and let me know what you think.